Welcome to Hot Topics on the Edge of Show. I'm January Jones, joined by my co-host, Richard Carthon.
Coming up, we're digging into MasterCard tokenizing 30% of its transactions, runes, ordinals, and Bitcoin developments, and Omnity's event at Eth Denver. Today, we have a very special guest, Sheldon Dearr from Omnity, who's going to be joining us. Thanks for being here, Sheldon.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
This is another production of The Edge of Company, a rapidly growing media ecosystem empowering the pioneers of Web3 culture, technology, and innovation.
Let's get into it.
Okay, well, our first story, we're talking about MasterCard. Multinational payment services giant MasterCard reported that it had tokenized 30% of its transactions in 2024. It also recognized stablecoins and other cryptocurrencies' ability to disrupt traditional financial services. Now, this is coming from MasterCard, a traditional financial service. Richard, is this a surprise? Because I don't really remember hearing much about this last year in the news from MasterCard.
Yeah, it's interesting. PayPal's been doing a lot in this space to try to integrate more Web3 synergy. You look at even the ability to purchase cryptocurrency directly in PayPal and even Venmo, which is another subsidiary that it owns, being able to do these transactions. But MasterCard, although they are not doing a lot of things outside of like your traditional things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., they're mostly focused on stablecoins. So they are realizing that they can make transactions happen faster and cheaper by utilizing those resources. And when you think about a lot of the international ability to move some of this money, the access to cryptocurrency is a lot more usable in the sense of most people overseas don't necessarily have a bank account, but a lot of them have phones, and a lot of those phones with access to internet then have wallets. And so you then have a means to then act with big banks, aka MasterCard, if you are able to then transfer some of these stable coins. So I am not extremely surprised by this news, but I am surprised that this news is coming from MasterCard. So that was kind of a shocker for me in this one. But Sheldon, what's your take on this?
I mean, I'm happy to see them rising above Visa's numbers on this because it made a splash when Visa was, making an announcement that they were getting on Ethereum, I think, 2-3 years ago. So it's interesting to see MasterCard sort of supersede them quietly. And, I can imagine how that looks for them as a business. But it's like you said, there's more access to the internet than there is to banks in the world.
And just really, what does this mean for people who maybe they hear MasterCard, so maybe they're going to tune in a little bit more to this conversation because it's a little more accessible. But what does it mean when it says they've tokenized 30% of their transactions?
If they're tokenizing 30% of their internal transaction activity, that must mean that a large portion of it is less friction to move between jurisdictions by tokenizing it, by sort of borrowing from themselves, by establishing an initial USDC liquidity. They can save themselves a lot of money and time because a few $100,000 being trapped in one place instead of being able to reach some money market fund or some other investment vehicle that they keep as part of their liquidity program. It would make a lot of sense for them that they would see an opportunity to lose less money or gain more money by a faster, higher velocity money like USDC. And I'm assuming, of course, that it would be USDC and Circle because it's an easy, compliant company for them to work with.
Right. I think that definitely is the case. I imagine they're probably utilizing some USDT too. They're probably getting away from USDT. Some of the news that we covered very recently is that in Europe, they're actually stopping to utilize USDT as a stable coin. So I imagine it's probably USDC as well. But to your point, like if you go by the traditional means of moving around money and you're saying that I can save you millions, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars, you're going to take that every time. And I bet because of this news, you're going to see some other big banks look at this and be like, hey, why aren't we doing this? And we should look at doing this even more so. So it just helps with the further adoption of using cryptocurrency.
There's something else that I saw in the article there that I thought was very interesting. A couple of different places published that MasterCard is also getting into peer-to-peer payment platforms and, working a little bit more closely with some of these cryptocurrency wallets that can support stablecoins. So I think it's very interesting for MasterCard as a company, instead of trying to choke and strangle their existing business model, to, look for avenues for more utility for this new liquidity program. Like, it makes a lot of sense to me that they would say, hey, we're not going to fight the market. We're going to take advantage. We'll make as much money as we can because we're a money services company. I think that's a really big bull flag for crypto.
Everybody's hearing the song now, right? And 30% of what MasterCard's transactions are. Can you imagine? Right? That's a big number. So that's kind of why I was a little surprised, because we talk about first and adoption all the time on this show. And certainly that one is significant for general adoption. All right, well, let's move on. Let's set the stage for a discussion here with Sheldon. And we're kind of digging into how Bitcoin has changed and about since the middle of last year. It's being used in ways that just used to be associated with Ethereum and other chains. Richard, you'd seen the rise of this going through the events from, last year, came up in the summer, really big in the fall. Edge of Company did an event in Japan recently, all around ordinals. So give us some context for this.
Yeah, I just want to start with I started looking way more heavily into all the amazing things being built on top of Bitcoin, starting at Bitcoin Asia last year in Hong Kong. And it was the very first Bitcoin Asia summit I've been to that also like featured runes, ordinals, which were, for me, very new topics that were coming up. Even the concept of the year before at Token 2049, we helped with an event in Singapore that were focused on some of the first times that you could get ordinals. And that was back in 2023. So fast forward to 2024, built out more Xverse being used way more readily for wallets for storing both ordinals and runes. And so you started to see more and more marketplaces, even Magic Eden. Magic Eden made a very big investment in understanding how they could get Bitcoin ecosystem more involved into the craze that was NFTs. And it just made me realize how much potential was in this space. So you fast forward to now 2025, Bitcoin being over $100,000, and now all these Bitcoin maxis have all of this money they've been sitting on that they don't utilize, that can now participate in all the fun things that everybody in the ETH ecosystem and Solana ecosystems have been playing with, from DeFi, where you can do things like that, where borrowing in against things that you already have, or being able to be in ordinals, or be able to be in runes with meme coins, etc., but all within the Bitcoin ecosystem. And it made me super bullish on where this is headed. So when having someone on like Sheldon that's super immersed in this space, I was really excited to hear his take on this, and then also be able to do something with him, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's been super exciting. And the last thing I wanted to just talk about is, like, even this weekend, Rich Swap Dex, endorsed by Leonidas, who we've had on the show, in Dog Army, like, dropped the Hope You Get Rich token. And it was, the fact that you have DEXs on top of Bitcoin, I don't think people fully understand how awesome and how much transactions are going to be happening within the Bitcoin ecosystem into this next cycle. But Leonidas, I mean, Sheldon, you have so much that you can drop on this.
It's been a great week. Absolutely. The launch was excellent, and we've been getting great feedback. But the runes and ordinal space really has moved forward at an impressive pace. Like, Bitcoin Core has not changed. The ORD protocol, the way that ORD nodes exist and have different features and, can be stabilized, like, that stuff has upgraded very significantly in just the last 45 days. But the idea that we would keep doing these things while depending on something on Bitcoin called op return means that we can have this column of data on Bitcoin's blockchain that some miners will choose to ignore, and it still is processed in transactions. So we're confident that that's a very good business model for us at Omnity, that we can sort of take the best of both worlds, from a little bit more of a smart contract environment and a little bit more of a settlement and monetary trust layer. So it's been really, really exciting. And we have had our bridge up for the past year or so with, I think, more than 20 blockchains connected. But in the past month and a half, because of this uptick in activity, we've been able to bring on a few more team members and really keep growing the bridge. So I think we've added 3 bridge connections in the past 45 days. We also launched Rich Swap, and we also helped a pump fund for runes launch the same week as we did, called Odin.fund. So it's been really exciting to see this new model where folks are appreciating the sort of permanence and value that Bitcoin can have in contributing to Web3. And that doesn't have to be, like just using a terminal and things being really difficult and complicated. That can be a very, very high quality, user experience. So we're very excited to see the market respond positively to all this.
Absolutely. And so for those who are listening and hearing Omnity for the first time, what is Omnity?
So Omnity Network is a product of light clients built on the ICP blockchain. Basically, we've been developing light clients for different blockchains for about 5 years. And we decided when we moved away from our previous business that we needed to do something that was moderately future-proof. So we found that ICP could host our light clients as smart contracts, and we'd be able to maintain a very, very high performance level for them at a very good cost and at a very reasonable rate of managing security. So we've turned that first into the Omnity Hub, which is a bridge that can take runes from any asset on the L1. Feasibly, it's possible to take other Bitcoin assets as well, but we're not doing that now, except for a little bit of BRC20. And you wrap them yourself and take them to another blockchain. So Base is the latest chain that we've just announced in the past 24 hours. And that means that any runes token holder can take their runes, lock them up in their own hash time lock contract on the Bitcoin L1. And because of that lockup, they're able to use them on their own on Base. Non-custodial, permissionless. We're not administering the protocol. We are sort of proctoring it. So that property being available in advance has been really useful for the Dog Army and a number of other great runes projects. But this weekend, launching the runes DEX has led to a whole nother swell of strength with, the Operation Dog Domination that Leonidas unleashed in the past few days. And that means that we are not necessarily focused on centralized exchange listings for runes. We're focused on building out a cross-chain ecosystem of runes tokens. Does that mean that runes will always exist on the Bitcoin L1? No, it means that's where they're home. But they should be able to participate in DeFi to, act in other L2 blockchains of different types, as long as they can have a reasonably secure wrapping service. So we are not the only bridge provider. We're very happy to compete with others and, have others also serving the interests of the Dog Army and others who want to take their runes cross-chain. But with Bitcoin becoming more flexible with this ORD software, making runes and ordinals possible, we don't have to fight about Bitcoin Core. We can pretty much leave it as is and still enhance this secondary protocol through the existing op return technology that's already built into Bitcoin Core. So it's very exciting to talk to Bitcoiners about this, even though I don't think that they'll move their sats for ordinals and runes in the immediate future. It takes time to build this up, and part of that process is building a great user experience.
Absolutely. It's very important that everything is seamless and secure above all. If there's one thing Bitcoiners are very, very, very sensitive about, it's security and keeping everything locked up in a safe way.
Exactly. And it has to be transparent too. You can't lock up in the safest black box ever. I don't care who told you it's safe, or even if it's you telling me it's safe, you have to be able to verify that. So at Omnity, we're very proud that our bridge is non-custodial and permissionless, meaning that anyone can validate that data at any time. And we'll be ready to supply some of that data to third parties who want to use things like APIs to track what tokens are where. And that's a really critical part of infrastructure in Web3, is that you have to be able to supply data about the token. So we're really excited to be part of building that up. And if I could make one other shout out earlier, because you mentioned them earlier in the show, we've also submitted a feature request to Phantom Wallet. If you search runes on Phantom, you will find at feedback.phantom.com a feature request, because they already have Taproot wallets enabled. So we think the market might be about to get bigger by 15 million monthly active users, but if it doesn't, we'll still be here chucking along.
Sheldon, you mentioned how much progress has happened in the last 45 days in this space, but you were ready for this space. So how did you key in on this as going to be needed a year ago when you were, building out the business?
So we had a critical decision to make when we moved from our previous product and namesake. And that decision was simple. We could take on another secondary type of risk in, going to a new and exciting technology with a different kind of blockchain and, supporting their thesis and their mission. And effectively, in a sense, we did do that by moving to ICP as our tool chain. But our decision to do that was based on their ability and their already existing programs to support Bitcoin and all of our other blockchain-like clients. So we found fitting it with them really well, but our decision to choose Bitcoin was simple. When you start in a risk-on environment, moving to another risk-on environment makes it very hard for people to trust you. I would understand if some people liked that from us, they wanted to see this specific risk on, but there's a much larger market of people who would like to say, okay, we've gone from a risk on model with this product suite, let's move back to something that is a little bit more risk off. And I tend to think of Bitcoin as being the risk off cryptocurrency. It will change the least. Bitcoin Core is going to make revisions a lot slower than ETH or any other Ethereum component. So we thought it was a good idea to focus on Bitcoin as the anchor to our business without abandoning all the other work we did for so many other blockchains like Solana and Polkadot and Cosmos and Near. And we're very happy that we can sort of walk and chew gum in this way, thanks to the great technology on ICP.
Well, let's move into then talking about Eth Denver. But also, let me have you contextualize. So if you're talking to someone who is heads in ETH, has ignored what's happening in Bitcoin, could you tell me what like kind of an analogy would be for them to see this adoption in the runes and ordinals into Bitcoin? So let's do our ETH translation, and then let's talk about what we're doing in Denver soon.
So the start of the conversation is that the initial mission was to emulate what has been successful, and more recently, ERC 404, the ability to handle fungible and non-fungible assets at the same time. I think I have that EIP correct. That was the initial mission, is to sort of reach some level of parity with the existing market, who understands these concepts, who might want to use products and, try tooling and, degen or do whatever they want. That was the initial thesis. It's not taken a year for the entire ecosystem to realize that UTXOs are really different than GUI. And GUI are more fungible than sats. Just, pennies to pennies. Ethereum is more fungible because of its account model. However, if you are looking at that lack of fungibility as a tool, where you have uniquity, where you have some form of identification built into somebody who's coming to your platform, there's a lot of benefit to that. You don't have to maintain as many user identification tables. You already have some marker as to who's who and what money is what when you put it into a pool. So there's a lot of features that took time on Ethereum to develop because of the account model that in some ways are built into Bitcoin already. So I would say that there's not a reason to abandon your Ethereum work or to leave that blockchain. I think it's dealing with a tough time right now for a few different reasons, but it's very, very successful. Bitcoin is trying to express a slightly parallel and slightly perpendicular thesis that says, hey, there's some things that we can do the same and there's some things that we can do differently.
Yeah, and I think that was a really good way to like bridge that gap between like why is there's this gigantic convergence of people within the Ethereum ecosystem that either left and went all in on Bitcoin, or those who like have always been of the mindset that like both of these can be synergistic. You just have to find a way to bridge them in a way that is ubiquitous and synergistic. And obviously Omnity is doing that. And in that regard is why we'll be at Eth Denver. We're also doing a kickoff party. So everyone who's listening to this right now, we have a VIP reception by Omnity, which is going to be at Eth Denver. And so we're kicking off Eth Denver with an exclusive VIP reception with complimentary drinks, food, and awesome art and entertainment and rare knowledge. We're hosting an exclusive reception with high caliber networking and mixed together with a few interesting presentations and digital art that will make you smile, make you have a great time. And you're going to be able to connect with developers, KOLs, industry leaders. It's going to be an intimate forum before heading to the official Eth Denver opening party. It's at the same venue. That's right. You can get in. It's super convenient. You get some knowledge, some networking, and then you get to go party. It's going to be super sick. It's going to be at the Mirrors Gallery. It's located next door to Temple. And Sheldon, why did you decide to create this event?
Well, we've had a simple mandate every Eth Denver since the inception of our company, and that is to show up. The first year that we were there was 2021, and I had a blast. Vitalik was in the suit, the buffacorn suit, and he hugged me. I didn't find out it was him until later. I thought that was hilarious. It was a really interesting time. I was hoping that we would stay at the castle after that. I thought that was going to be like that every year, but it's a huge event. It takes place over, more than one venue. It just can't all fit 40,000 people into one venue. So we're really excited to be back and doing something a little bit more significant, because typically we will join other people's events. We try to rally and support our technical partners and community partners. But this year we decided that, Runes is a new market and it's still growing and people find interest, but we need to give people a place who are interested in runes and ordinals. Not that they won't make one themselves or have some other event. There's a handful, if not more, of excellent Bitcoin events that are going to be either whole day takeovers or just night parties. I've seen a couple of brunches. And we, before we saw those events, knew that we had to make some contact with our target audience and, try to talk about the work that we're doing and ask for feedback as well. So it was a really easy business decision to say, okay, we've been, sort of holding the bag, waiting for the right moment to really engage, full budget that we can afford with Eth Denver. And, it's difficult to make those balances when you're a startup company because you have your runway to manage and all of these things. But we are not a, huge marketing push kind of company. We're a very communal, word of mouth, smaller kind of organization. And that means that if we're going to throw a party, it better be good, which is part of why we're so glad to have you all there with us.
Definitely. You've been a great partner, and we're excited to be out there with you. And January, I know you've been doing this for quite some time. What are you looking forward to out there?
Yeah, well, the opening night party we've been working on. So I contract with Eth Denver. I work at sponsorships, but I also have met over my crypto conference circuit Arthur from Nolcha shows. And so Nolcha has never come to Denver and never thrown a party, but like I went to his at Consensus Austin, and then he did the one Bitcoin Nashville at that movie studio that was so cool, and the inscribing event. And so he is throwing down here in Denver. It's Temple is a 4-story nightclub here in Denver, where I live, and it's attached to the art gallery Miras. And so it's going to be 4 stories of fun. The top level is going to be a silent disco. The other levels have big rooms. There's a huge LED like party room, and then there's smaller venues. And then there's Miras Gallery that's attached, that is very high-end gallery that has like a bar and a DJ. And we are going to just pop up art in there. And so your guys' reception will be in there, but we're also inviting other artists from Denver to do some performance art, to have some kind of live painting. We'll have just a mix of things going on that night. And it's kind of exciting how everyone has come together, because you guys are also bringing in another partner we work with the Super Chief. So maybe, Richard, you could talk about how you've been working with Super Chief, and then Super Chief's going to be there too during Omnity's party on the 26th.
Yeah, just to bring it home, and thanks for explaining all of that. So, we're kicking off the evening. We'll have some food, refreshments. So we want you to come enjoy yourselves, get some knowledge from the speaker panels that we're going to be having at this event. But then you're going to get to do all the fun things. You're going to get to enjoy art. You're going to get to have amazing conversations. You're going to get to network. You're going to get to party if you want to. You can get to dance the night away if you want to. But Super Chief's been awesome. We recently just did an event with them out in Japan, ordinals in NFT Japan. And he's going to come out and share some of his art as well out there. So great to have him as a partner for this event. And really appreciate being able to partner with Sheldon with all this. So Sheldon, do you have any final parting words for people on why they should come check us out?
If you've never heard of Eth Denver before, if you've never been to Eth Denver before, it's Ethereum and stuff. Highly, highly recommend. I'm not trying to take away from the Ethereum community, but the Ethereum community knows how ETH was started. It was Vitalik's proposal in 2014, falling flat to a bunch of Bitcoiners. So I think it's time that we remind the Bitcoiners that we never stopped. This mission never really gave up. There was always a decentralized, lake of ideas about these different kind of things. And that means that we want to party with y'all. We want to talk to folks who are both like-minded and not like-minded. And we just want to, discuss with y'all and party with y'all and, soak in the greatness that is a incredibly strong recurring event in the US, because, crypto has been struggling a little bit in the United States, maybe not anymore, but, it's been a very interesting last 4 years, and Eth Denver has been a critical mecca through all of it.
Yeah, well, as we say, it's a community of communities. And so I think there's going to be such a big presence this year with the Bitcoin community. But just all the cool Bitcoiners, right? Just all the cool ones that, like Sheldon, are coming.
Awesome.
There'll be a couple little fire starters, but that's okay. We'll see what we can do to soothe that concern from them.
Awesome.
For sure. Well, as a reminder for everyone out there, the event's going to be on Wednesday, February 26th from 6 to 8. Make sure you come early before so you can come and enjoy all the amazing things that we have planned for you that night, and then stick around for an amazing party afterwards. But that is going to be a wrap for today's discussion. We covered MasterCard tokenizing 30% of its transactions, conversation around roots, ordinals, and the Bitcoin ecosystem, and of course, Omnity's event at Eth Denver. Thanks to Sheldon from Omnity for joining us today.
And thanks so much for having us, guys. We really appreciate it. You know, the VIP reception for Omnity Network is a little bit exclusive. You can find it on the main Ethereum Denver events website. We'll be sharing about it on our socials, and you'll see a couple of our partners talking about it as well. You know, we're excited to come out and, you know, just have dinner and talk to y'all and have a good time. So hope to see you there.
Awesome. Such a fun discussion leading up to Eth Denver. We will see you there. I'm January signing off. Stay curious, stay innovative, and we'll see you next time.